Thank you guys so much for being here.
Hey, kids. Front row.
So
The amazing actor that played my child is sitting right in front of me. Izzy! I'll embarrass you a lot through this interview. Don't worry. I got you.
That's awesome. Well, I want to start with hear about how both of you got the project. Mae, in a recent interview, you said that this was kind of like your, quote, third act, and that you usually play, quote, responsible, wise beyond your years, brooding teenagers. So how did this role come about for you?
Well, clearly, Annie is not that. Any of those things, I would say. Yeah, I would say it is true. I feel like I tend to play the more like teenager that's so moody because she's smart but doesn't know how to express it. You know, it's like more that dramatic tone. And so it was really fun for me to play a character that's very spontaneous and wild and doesn't always think before she does things. And that was something that I've never really gotten to express. And also somebody who's just so blindly confident that she sort of is like the catalyst for all this sometimes bad behavior and decision making. And again, you know, when we first got the script, it's amazing to me how Jenna can write such full characters without, it's not expository. Like so much happens in this first pilot that they could have stretched it out for a whole season, but she's so good at sort of making you know the people right away and to the point where you don't have to explain every little detail and you kind of get right into the meat of stuff. So that to me was something I found really appealing.
Yeah, and Retta, you've said before, you know, I've always known I could do drama, but, you know, people come to you with comedy. And, you know, we've seen some of your dramatic work in Girlfriend's Guide. But this, I read that Jenna wrote it with you in mind, the role of Ruby. And what was your reaction to that, knowing that, because this is a very dramatic role for, you know, in many ways?
Yeah. My reaction was, damn, okay. Because it was something that I know people don't expect from me, and the fact that she trusted me with the material. But it was the kind of thing that I had gotten. My managers sent an email. They said, read this script. They want you for this part. I didn't know that Jenna had written it with me in mind at the time. And they were like, read it and get back to us. So I read it and I was like, ooh, I want to meet with her. And they're like, well, there's some other stuff. I was like, no, it's good. Basically, they were like, read everything. And I was like, no, this is fine. I'm good. And so I ended up meeting with her on Skype. And that's when she told me that she'd written it with me in mind. She goes, and you can ask my husband, because my friends are on her husband's show. And she's like, they can back me up. And I was like, I believe you.
And I mean, as performers, you know, you've obviously both have a lot of work under your belt, but this, for each of you, it was a role that is different, you know, from what you're used to doing. What are the sort of challenges and rewards as actors? You know, like on the first day, are you extra nervous because it's something totally new?
I don't feel like I was nervous in that I loved the script so much, and you want to do well. You want to do the script right, and I wanted to do well for Jenna. But with working with Mae, I wasn't nervous at all. I feel like we kind of hit it off from the very beginning.
Yeah, I think the only thing that is one thing that is so specific about this show is just how the genre is so bent. Like there's everything about it there's every sort of walk of life and comes into this show, and it continues to throughout the whole show. And so I think, you know, one thing that we talked about was just like that sort of would be the only thing in our mind is like, are we making sure to be really honest? Because that's what makes the tone come across and be solid, is just the absurdity of these honest, genuine, normal people being in this crazy situation that gets so out of control. So I think that was sort of the only thing that we really had in our heads the whole time, was like, where are these people at in their, you know, processing of this crazy stuff, and where do we inject little changes, and how do they grow, and all that kind of stuff. But for the most part, it felt pretty natural. And again, a lot of that was the writing, and also it was, you know, having each other. We're all super close in real life, so it definitely felt like a good team.
And you mentioned this a little bit, but the tone is so interesting because it can be so funny, but also really emotional and intense, and then moments of humor in those emotional, intense moments. What is it like, and what is the key as a performer to like injecting comedy into the drama and vice versa?
For me, I love that sort of thing. I love being able to laugh in a crazy situation, in a sad situation, just for some relief. So I think it was easy to me to inject it. It's also written that way. It's written, it's a sad scene and then something funny happens in it. I don't know that, I read some things that people were like, and reviewers and such were like, is this a comedy or is this a drama? It's like, it's everything. Take it in.
It's a dramedy, if you
know
must
what I
know.
mean? I'm sorry. Is your life a drama or a comedy, or are there mixes of things? Everybody.
She gets this mad every time too. It's pretty awesome to
and
watch.
It's so annoying. So, and I'm like they're mad. How can you put all these things in it? I'm like, I'm a complicated woman, folks.
Correct.
Mae, you've been a working actress since what, you were two
and a half
years old? Wow. And at a very young age, you worked with some, quite A-list movie stars, Meg Ryan, George Clooney, Sandra Bullock. When you look back at that now, are there things you take away from those experiences that help you today as a performer, or is it just all a blur? Like, how does it influence you today?
Absolutely. Everything leading up to now has influenced me. And, again, especially now, this is my first time playing a mom. And that is this amazing thing because, again, growing up being a child actor, I sort of am so used to being on that side of things. Like, I remember specifically always sitting in like the passenger seat of a car, like looking up at my TV mom. And now like I'm behind the driver's seat and I got my kid over there. And so it's such an amazing feeling. It feels like it's coming full circle. And I feel so lucky that I've had opportunities to actually continue to grow and play different people throughout the years. But I'd say specifically, every single experience, and it's like for me, the things that I remember are off camera and on camera and this and that. It is kind of all a big mix, but it's like pieces that I really hold dear. And especially for this project, it felt great to be able to kind of know what it's like to be a kid actor. And luckily, I got stuck with a very fabulous actor playing my child. Again, really like this kid is, every time we are out there, it just feels like us hanging out, right? Yeah. I'm making you turn red. I'm going to keep going. They're like really like, you get lucky because especially kids, sometimes they're a little defensive or guarded, and it's a weird situation to be in, especially if you're sort of new to it. And I think I just got really lucky because this is a very intuitive and considerate and honest child. And I feel like our relationship just grew and grew. And we took walks around the park. What else? We went to the diner. We had the best time. Can you stand up and just face people so they believe me? Look at this kid. Fantastic. Izzy, baby. My favorite child. Anyway, you can sit now. I love you. But yeah, so that I think to me was a big emotional part of this, was just sort of being able to be a mom and kind of knowing what it feels like and being able to have a good relationship with my kid.
That is very lovely. Retta, there's so many moments that you could call out for Ruby, but one that really struck me was when she takes her daughter to the fancy doctor's office and the relief is so overwhelming that she's finally being heard that she just bursts into tears. And that's another one of those moments that is so intense, but then funny. How do you prepare for a scene like that?
I drink a lot of water because one of the things when I first met with Dean, the director, one of the things was he's like, you gotta do a lot of crying. I was like, yeah, I'm pretty good at crying. Don't worry about it. Like I was very I can cry easy. And so the first scene that I had to shoot was when we come in and the kids are playing and I'm supposed to tear up and nothing came. And he was like, that's all you talked about was how you cried. What happened, Retta? And I was like, I don't know. And I drank some water and it was fine. So I realized I have to be hydrated to cry. And so that's my first thing, is to make sure I drink a lot of water before a crying scene. But I kind of just got, based on the first doctor scene, I kind of just got how that could be so emotional to have someone actually paying attention to you and in hearing you and wanting to help. So it was kind of easy to get there. It's because I could tell, in the writing that what was going on. And then the funny part, a lot of times directors will just not yell cut. And so like, a lot of times I'm just like, so usually if there's like a beat and I feel like I'm not yelling, I'll just say a line. And so that's when I was like, can I have lemon? Lemon.
So that was improvised?
Yeah, that was an improv line.
That's actually a great segue because I wanted to ask Mae, you've said that there was a lot of improvising on Parenthood. And I'm wondering, when you started there, was that something that you were prepared for as a performer, or was it new to you, or how did that work?
Yeah, no, I hadn't really done too much improv, I would say, on TV or movies. And, you know, it's a rare thing, I would say, especially for network, because, you know, things are just more kind of controlled usually. And I would say NBC has always been really good, at least in my experience, with letting us kind of create our own little worlds, both on Parenthood and in this universe. And so I'd say, like, I was in a Robert Altman movie when I was 9, and that was my first experience with improv, and I was so excited about it because it really does just force you to be really present and reactive in the moment, which is kind of how you should be all the time, but it's easy to kind of get in your head if you know what's coming all the time. So I think with Parenthood, it didn't even start out that it wasn't like a set thing, like now you're going to improvise and this and that. It sort of just over the years, as we came to really know and love our characters, things would just come out that were even more genuine and interpersonal, and that was something that they really encouraged. So it was actually really great too, because in order to have good improv, I feel like there has to really be like a vibe of love and trust in a place, and openness. And it's an amazing thing to, you know, and I worked with such amazing actors on that show, especially Lauren Graham, who's still like my best friend today. But that was such a cool thing to just get yourself as prepared to be as honest as possible, no matter what happens. You know, that's a whole different skill set. And it's great when you can walk in a room and have somebody like your best friend in there that you know is going to throw you some really honest, great stuff, and then you can just be present and see what comes out of it. So I felt pretty lucky, and I'm glad we got to do some improv on this as well.
I was going to ask Retta, I assume on Parks and Rec there was probably quite a bit of improv, and I'm wondering, coming from a comedy background, is that something that you prefer to have that flexibility when you're on a scripted show, or do you know, some performers like to really have the guidance of, you know, the script?
When I first started, I was very, very scripted. I didn't like when I went to auditions and they'd be like, make it your own. I'm like, I mean, I'm still doing the words, you know what I mean? Like, I didn't like, it scared me. I was fearful of it. And then I got on a show that was filled with amazing improvers. People who started as improvers, and then like Chris Pratt. Chris Pratt is a great improviser, and he never did UCB or anything like that. So it was a great learning ground for me because I feared it so much, and I got to watch people who were fearless with it. And at first, when I first used to do it, I would write notes. I would write, on this take, I'm gonna try this. On this take, I'm gonna try. I would just write all these things because I was sitting at a desk most of the time. And then I would just like say a line. And they'd be like, oh, that's funny. I was like, oh, check that one off. And then I got more comfortable with it as, 7 seasons in. I hope I start to pick something up. And so it just it does. So now I do like it. I do like it, and then it kind of makes it hard when you do go to audition. You're like, should I make this my own, or should I do what's written? Because some people are very, stuck with the script. They're like, don't change any of that shit. Do what it says. So I like it. I like being able to make it my own.
And as actors, how do you handle it in a scene where if you feel comfortable and you want to do it, but you can kind of tell that maybe the person you're in, the people you're in the scene with, are not having it? Like, is it a conversation you have in advance, or how does that work out?
I think it's the kind of thing where you kind of feel the room out. I mean, it's our show now, so that's what we do. So get on board. But it's also kind of like, it's okay, like, just feel, but I feel like if you see the panic in someone's eyes, you'd be like, there's a chance we're going to do other things. So
you can usually talk people through it. It is true. Like I've been lucky that most of the time the main actors that you work with every day, they have felt comfortable with it. So you don't really come up against that problem. But, occasionally there'll be somebody who's on for a day or who doesn't really understand. But again, it's the thing that matters about improv is like trust. And if somebody feels trusted and respected to do something honest, I feel like it opens them up to actually do that. So sometimes I feel like we would have like a conversation with somebody and just be like, I think, in this moment, is it okay if I say something like this and you say something like this, and we kind of go from there. You can kind of like talk your way through it a little bit, again, if you see the panic.
Yeah.
If you see the panic, you got to talk them through it. I want to take a couple audience questions. This one is for both of you from Mike, and he wants to know what are the favorite projects you have worked on and why, and then it ends, #treat yourself.
Well, it wasn't Parks. Favorite, I mean, I love Parks. I learned a lot working on Parks. I love this show just because I get to do so much more. I mean, I have learned that I'm not an action star, but, you know, I got to have some action scenes. I really liked, I did, Adam Scott was a producer on Other People and asked me to do it. And a lot of times, it's same thing happened with, no, I can't think of the name of the movie, but people will ask you to do their stuff as a favor. And usually you're like, sure, I'll do it. You're my friend, I'll do it. But you don't realize when you go in how special it will be. And I was in one scene, but all the women that were in that scene were such lovely people. And it was a small budget. So they held us in the same room, you know, and we were shooting at a school. So we're in a classroom with these little chairs. And it was just such a lovely experience. And it was just one day. And I remember Chris Kelly, he was so happy that we had all done it. And it made it just like a lovely experience, even though I'm on screen for maybe 3 minutes, max.
How about you, Mae?
I mean, it is hard to even pick any apart just because it does sort of go. I've taken so much from every single part, even when the experience has been unpleasant or it didn't come out perfectly. I take so much with me. But one that just jumped out of my mind was Perks of Being a Wallflower, because that to me felt like, you know, I was in my early 20s and we all like moved to this little suburb in Pittsburgh. And, you know, it's this beautiful book about growing up and adolescence. And there's some really painful topics in there, but it's done very honestly. And the writer, they let him actually write and direct the movie. So the tone stayed really true. And it took place in the 90s. I shaved my head. It was like, all that stuff was really fun. But also, we kind of, you know, me and this group of amazing kid actors, we like took over this like residence inn hotel in this suburb of Pittsburgh and just were like horrible little nightmare demons, like playing saxophone at 6 a.m. because we worked all night. You know, we would work from like 5 p.m. to like 8 a.m. and then we'd get back and just like rip the place apart. I mean, it was very bad behavior, but it was kind of like my high school experience because I, you know, grew up on set, so I didn't have like my big rebelling times. I mean, I wasn't like a bad boy or anything, but I just like, it was kind of like it felt we were all super intimate and it was really close and we just made some really amazing memories, and I think it kind of came out on the screen too, so that was a personal fave.
It's and Good Girls too. You can really tell you guys are having fun. Like that's part of what makes it enjoyable to watch. So this is a safe space. We're in a room with actors, all actors here, and so let's talk about your worst audition ever.
Wow, there's really so many to choose from.
Just pick one off the tree.
I one time tried to, I was thinking about this the other day because the movie was on, and I one time like didn't read a script and I had to go in for a meeting with the director and writer-director, and I forgot that I had the thing. So I like scanned, it was like about 2 girls, and I like scanned the girl scenes really fast, and I was like, okay, I have it. And like, I went in and I was like and the guy was like so intense, and he was like asking me, he was like, what did you think of the dream sequence on page 72? Did you think it was glib or like these like really, I was like, well, I thought it was dreamy, very dreamy, like just like totally bullshitting my way through it. And I thought I did pretty well. And then he seemed so confused by all my answers. And I was like, no, I'm acing this. And then when I left, and I was supposed to be reading for the other girl, and they're like, it was like a completely different role. So every character question he asked, I just like totally bombed and said the exact wrong attributes of the wrong person. And yeah, that was maybe a very low moment for me, I would say.
All right, that's nice. All right, Retta.
One that I was already uncomfortable going in for this. It was for, I think it was called Road Trip. Does that sound right? Road Trip or something like that. And my character was supposed to meet, oh God, now I can't think of the kid's name. He was really hot from some other like teen movie that had come out earlier. And really thin white kid. And she meets him at a black fraternity party. and then sleeps with him in the very next scene. And I've always had a problem wrapping my mind around auditioning for a sex scene. If you're just standing up, talk, like I'm like, am I supposed to like lean, like act like I'm laying down? And it was like, she was on top of him, like, and I was like, what do I? And so I went into this audition like, there's no way I'm gonna act like I'm on top of some guy with the dialogue. So I just kind of was just like staring at the casting director and saying the lines like, and inside I was dying a million deaths, like, what are you doing? And she was kind of like, I feel like you're really close to me. I could tell that she was just like, and I just walked out like so sick to my stomach. And then that was when I decided, because I was always afraid to say no to my agents. Every time they sent something that I was just like a little bit uncomfortable with, I'd be like, well, I mean, just do your best in front of the casting director. And I finally, after that, I got to a place where I was like, you know what, if I don't want to do it, I can't go in. Like, I make all of us look bad. Him,
Doesn't
me,
work for anybody.
right? So I finally, that was the straw that broke this camel's back. Because I was like, it was not a cute thing. It wasn't good.
That sort of leads to one of the other audience questions, which was about what advice would you give an actor who's looking to find his or her niche, not necessarily knowing where he or she, fits in the work. And so, and that's an example where you learn to say no to your agent, like when your gut tells you no.
Yeah, I feel like, I've always just skated through on like really trying to like figure out who I am in life, not like who I am in some weird existential way, but just like to what Retta's saying, that like it's okay to not fit into every box. It's okay to not be like the supermodel horror movie girl that like tank top rips in the beginning. Like it's okay for me to not be that way. It's okay, because like I used to get those auditions and be like, oh God, now I have to try to squeeze myself into this tiny dress and feel uncomfortable and be this weird person that's not very smart, and I feel smart, so how do I do this thing? Like, you don't have to panic and try to be upset with yourself for squeezing yourself into a box that you're not. I find that like, especially now, it feels like what people are really looking for is like honesty and character and feeling like proud and confident in who you are, no matter who you are. And there's so much room for like weirdos and strange people, and however you want to come across, as long as you feel good about it and you communicate your message with like love and good intention of who you are. I feel like that's something that people are really drawn towards, especially right now. So I would just like, I love to like, anytime like before an audition or something, I just get myself into like my zone. Like I do what makes me feel good. I'll go like take a sauna and then like, read a book or something that I like to do. Like just give myself some time to get myself into my headspace where I feel good, and then put myself in a place of being able to give that in the room or whatever.
I think for me, it was, I took a cold read class, and in this specific class, our teacher would give us scenes from all kinds of things, and your acting class should be a safe space, and so you just try everything. I got to try a lot of things, and I think you get a vibe of what you're good at and what you feel comfortable with in something like that. I'm not sure. I guess I kind of know who I am and what I like and what I want to do, and so that's the kind of thing I push with my agents, and in my management. I was like, because after I finished Parks, I was like, you guys, like, let's get some dramas in. Stop being scared. Put a bitch on some other lists. And so I think it's just what you're feeling. You know what you like. You know what you like, and go after that. I mean, you may stumble upon something else, and I think acting class really helped me see the kinds of things I like. I don't know that I'd be good playing a captain on a spaceship. I don't think that's my genre.
I can totally see you doing that. Are you kidding me?
I mean,
now
I
I'm
could
like
try.
dying for it. Come on, let's do it.
But that was the kind of thing, Captain. I'd be like,
It's
did I say that right? Did I say that right?
I can see you like sitting in the chair with like the little remote and just like yelling at people. It'd be
if
so
I could
sick.
just like, but if I got to do the,
Yeah.
I get too caught up.
And what advice would you give your, 21-year-old self looking back?
I guess mine would be like, just don't panic. Like, stop panicking about everything. And it's like, again, I guess that's kind of what your 20s are for, is to be like upset and stressed out about stuff that's like not really a big deal. And then you're like, oh, I don't have to feel this like nervous and anxiety ridden all the time about everything. So I feel like to me, it would just be, and that's actually something that Lauren Graham always told me a lot, was just like, don't panic and like let go of the story of stuff and don't let things pile up on your plate to the point where it seems insurmountable. Like do your daily maintenance of keeping your plate clean and letting each thing come and not creating a big story around it. Take each thing as it comes and realize there's always a way you can get through it, and then just get it done. And it's not like I'm such a procrastinator. It's so hard for me to get stuff done. I leave stuff till the last minute every time. And so I feel like if I could be like, just do a tiny bit a day of maintenance on yourself, it'll be a lot better. I would sing it like that too, because I think it would be easier for my early 20s self to hear if I did it in that weird
If it were in song, yes.
I think so, yeah.
Mine would be, what would mine be? I had it in my head and it just left me. The song, it would be that song. I guess just understand your, oh God, I can't think of how I was gonna say it in such an eloquent way. And now I can't, I guess don't worry so much, which is kind of like don't panic. It's going to happen, which I went to LA when I was 26, and I had gotten to that place. I had it in my head that I was going to be a successful actress. I was going to have a billboard on Sunset. Like I had the picture. It was in my head. I knew it was going to happen. And so my thing was like, my anxiety was when it was going to happen. I knew it was going to happen. I just had an anxiety as to when. And so I taught myself, or I ingrained within myself, just have a good time, because it's going to happen. Don't let your average day be weigh on you because it's not happening. So I didn't have that fear. So I would say, I mean, I feel like I let myself have a good time when I wasn't working, because there was a point I was sleeping on friends' floor, and all my shit was in my car, but I still was having a good time. So I don't know, like I don't know what I would say differently, other than do what makes you feel comfortable. I think that's what it is, because that has a lot to do with going in for stuff that you don't think you're right for, and then just going in because the agent got you this audition. So do what makes you, that would be the best thing. Do what makes you feel comfortable. Because I would have saved myself a lot of time, like just anxiety over something I just knew wasn't going to work out. It wasn't going to be good.
I also just want to say, like, one thing I've learned through my whole career of it that my parents really instilled in me was like, it's really like a waiting game, and there's nothing worse when you're an actor of like the second you finish your job, you're like, I'm never gonna work again. I'm never gonna work again. I'm never gonna work. Like, and every day you're just like, if I don't get a job, I'm so valueless. Like it's like you become obsessed, and it really is like a longevity game. Like I feel like it's like right that day where you're actually like right before I got this pilot, I like went through some really harrowing stuff with another pilot, like in a whole thing, and it was this nightmare, and I was like so upset that I was like, this is it, this is the day I finally quit. Like I actually was like in my bathtub, like, and I called my agent and I was Googling, I was like, well, I'm gonna get a job as a tour guide at Winchester Mystery House in Northern California. I hope you come visit. I can get you a discount. Like I was like fully like applying, and like I was like, they have benefits. I mean, why would I not? Like it was like I was actually ready, and literally the next day, I got this Good Girls offer came along, and I was like, oi, 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 you did it again, universe. Like, it really is about the strongest will. And like my dad always was like, hang in there and don't take it personally, because nothing is personal, even though it feels like the most personal thing in the world. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, I want to say thank you so much to Mae Whitman and Retta.
Thanks, guys.
Good Girls airs Mondays on NBC. Check it out.